I didn't give a shit about what happened to them, so I stopped reading it. Do you see a freaking theme happening here? Because I don't know what it is. And here we go again. What's up, book nerds? It's been a minute since I checked in, so I thought that I would talk to you about what I have been reading and what I have been DNFing. I have been DNFing like a champ. I have just found that I don't have the patience for books that aren't working for me. So if I find myself reading something and I'm not actively reaching for it, I have been DNFing it. Without any guilt, because you know what? Life is too short to read books that you're not enjoying. Even if it's just a me at the moment kind of thing where I realize it's something I would normally enjoy. If I'm not at that time, like, I'm just putting it down. I'm not even like second guessing or guilting over it. I'm just not reading it anymore. So I'm trying to remember where I left off when I checked in with you last. I think the last thing I really talked to you about was Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, which I made its own video for because I loved it so much. I just think that V.E. Schwab's writing is so beautiful and so lyrical. I think her character work is stunning, and I just cannot put it down. And I know that's not for everybody, but if you are a character-driven reader, I implore you to pick it up because it is so, so good. So that was that. I did also talk about The Exorcist House, Genesis, I believe, and I did put that down. I think I made it about 50% of the way through. And again, it's not that I don't think this is a good book, a good read, a good horror story. I think it's good. I think it's fine. I just wasn't engaged enough with it. I wasn't feeling connected to it enough to really want to keep going with it. Again, this is probably just a timing thing. It was probably just me. But yeah, just stopped reading it. Then I read Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. I was lent this by a friend at work, and it was kind of a spur of the moment pick it up, more because I'm kind of one of those people that if you lend me a book, I'm going to read it sooner rather than later, because I don't want to keep your book forever. So I read it and I loved it. This is a historical fiction, but it's a family saga. It's about this woman, Beth, and it is about her. It follows two timelines. So it follows her first love, and then it follows her and her husband, and the way that their lives interweave and connect. I will say there are some trigger warnings in there, so be sure to find those out before you go into it. I definitely had a little bit of trouble with it, part of it, but I think the overall message of the story was really well told. I loved the time. It took place in like I want to say the 60s and the 50s and 60s. But it's kind of like a love triangle, but it's more than that. It's also very much a story about family and relationships and the way that family can make your life messy. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was super easy to read. I flew through it in 3 days. And yeah, highly recommend. It's a very good story. Then I picked up, Horror Movie. I picked up Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I really enjoyed this book at the start. It is a story about a found footage horror film that this group of kids make, and then some pretty tragic events occur around the filming. It's never released. And then fast forward into the future, the one remaining cast member is being pulled into a remake of the story, but all of this takes place within them kind of recounting what happened and why it was such a tragic film and the horrific events that took place. And so it sounded really good. It started off really good. I ended up hating it and skim reading the last quarter of the book. I don't know, I think like what it was trying to do ultimately just didn't work for me. Kind of got, I don't know, annoyed by where it went. I just thought that, I don't know, it just didn't work for me. I just didn't love it. So that sounds like something you would enjoy. You should definitely give it a try. I think that Paul Tremblay is a good horror writer. This is definitely different, I think, than what he usually does in his horror books, but it was worth exploring. Next, I picked up Peace Like a River by Leif Enger. I think that this author is very talented. I think that the character work that he writes is very well done. But for whatever reason, I stopped picking it up. I think I got 100 pages in and just found myself not wanting to reach for it. So I DNF'd it. Now, I've heard so many good things about this book in the past from other booktubers that I really enjoy the things that they recommend. I borrowed this book from a friend actually. But yeah, I don't think I cared enough about the story and about the characters for whatever reason. This is a story about a boy. It's told from a boy's perspective in which his older brother kills 2 intruders in their house. And there's more backstory to it. And I believe that what happens is that this older brother is found guilty of crimes, and he makes a break for it. And I think what happens is the family goes after him, like they go on a journey trying to find him. Yeah, just wasn't vibing with it. Sorry. Not sorry. The next thing I picked up was The Favorites by Lane something. Lane, I didn't write her last name down. But this is a newer contemporary fiction that just was recently released. I had heard good things about it. I started reading it and I didn't like it. So I stopped reading it. I think it was the characters. This is about your female lead, which I can't even remember her name, and the female male lead, and they are a couple. But they are ice skating, not figure skaters, figure dancers or something. I don't know. And then they have this very competitive nature, but they also have the boy has a tragic history. She's like, her family tries to swoop in and save him, but then they have their own tragedy. I don't know. I just couldn't. I don't know. Maybe it was the sport within it that I didn't give a shit about. Maybe it was the characters. I just really didn't like them, and I didn't give a shit about what happened to them. So I stopped reading it. Do you see a freaking theme happening here? Because I don't know what it is. And here we go again. And then next I picked up The Omega Factor by Steve Berry. I think this is a standalone, but Steve Berry is one of those authors that has a gazillion books, and he writes very much like Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code, where it is these religious, mysterious, artifact searching relics. You know, there's a mystery, there's a love story. It's based on like historical fiction, but also religious fiction, or maybe not even fiction. I'm not sure. But I got, again, probably 75% of the way through this book, and I found myself not giving a shit. I don't know why. Like, it started out strong, and I was really curious where it was gonna go, what the mystery was. But then it's like everything starts to fall into place, and you can totally see where it's going, and it's so lackluster that you just don't give a crap. And that's kind of how I felt. I did buy one of his other books, and it is book number 1 in one of his main series, and I think I think it revolves around the Knights Templar. And so I still will give that a shot at some point and hope that it is better than this. But it just didn't end up ultimately caring. I think the characters started to get on my nerves. I felt very repetitive. It felt very predictable. Yeah, so that's that. The next book I picked up was The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. I really like this book. This is a sci-fi type story in which you follow your main character. Her name is Odell, and she lives in this valley, and they're surrounded by mountains on each side. If you are to go over the border in the east, you pass 20 years into the future. If you're to go over the border in the west, you pass 20 years into the past. And so all of the inhabitants of this place, this land, they are very much aware of this fact. And whenever something happens in which there's like a traumatic event, a death or something, they can petition the government to make a visit into either the future or the past, depending on, you know, the circumstances. And all the while, they have to be very secretive about it. Like, nobody can see them. It can't be known that their visit is happening. Basically, they can't interfere. There can be no intervention in the past or future events. And so these visits have to be very on the lowdown. And yeah, you can see how that is a recipe for disaster, right? Anyway, I really like this book. I thought that the characters were very well written. There's emotional value and pull in it. The comprehension of it and the ideas that this puts into your head, like, if you had this opportunity, this ability, would you take advantage of it? Or would it be too much of a responsibility? I thought that, you know, it definitely makes you think. It had a really good message within it, and it was very well done. I believe the author is actually a student, or actually a doctor of philosophy, and so it makes sense that his story dealt with a lot of philosophical issues and asked a lot of really great questions. Yes, that one. Notice I'm not talking about my ratings because I think it's kind of irrelevant, really. I'm giving you the basic, my thoughts and feelings towards it. And like, let's just let that be enough, right? The next thing I picked up and what I am currently reading is The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. This is book 1 in a 5-book series. And in this book, we follow Kieran, and he is basically raised by 2 step parents that are not well off. And he has some abilities that make him question his heritage, and certain things begin to happen, and come to find out he actually belongs to one of the ruling houses. Surprise, surprise. But there are some really unique characters in this. There are dragons, but there's also this immortal race. There's all of these gods and tons of mystery. Like, tons of mystery. There's so many mysterious elements to this. It's almost too much. It's almost too much. I mean, I'm really liking it. I really do like it. I like all of the plot elements. I like all the family intrigue and the historical intrigue and the magic systems. It's all very fun and mysterious, but it's a little hard to track at times. I'm not gonna lie. There are times when I'm like, I am wondering whether I'm reading this right, like if I'm understanding correctly, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it because I'm not gonna go back and reread and reread and reread. And so far I've been good, because it does kind of get reiterated, like it does get confirmed. And so I'm feeling pretty good about it. But just go in, if you decide to pick up this book, knowing that you really need to pay attention. There's a lot of threads to follow, and yeah, mysteries, lots of mysteries. But they're all very well done. It's kind of like, it has like the chosen one idea going on. But yeah, I really am liking it. I already own 4 out of the 5 books, and I just bought the new one. So that's that. And I did forget to mention that I also finished Educated by Tara Westover. This was a memoir that I listened to on audiobook, and it is about a girl who grows up within this Mormon family. They shun like normal day-to-day like things like school and medicine and the government. There's some abuse in this book. A lot of things in this were very hard to listen to and made me very angry. It was well written. It was very well written, and her story is so compelling and profound, but it was very hard to listen to at times. I highly enjoyed it though, overall, and I would recommend it. So if you are interested in memoirs and books about people that live lives that are very different from most, then you should give it a listen because it was very intriguing. So that's that. I thought that I might talk about the books that I sat out on my little shelf here that I want to read. Give me a second. Okay, so these are the books that are on my maybe read list, okay? I'm not gonna say I'm gonna read them because I don't really do TBRs, but these are the ones that I've sat out that are pretty high on my radar and I probably will pick up soon. I also just bought like 10 new books, so I might do a book haul soon in the future, maybe. Okay, so the first one I might read is Empire of the Damned. I know I'm late to the party. This is book 2 in the Empire of the Vampire series. Is that right? I didn't read it for a while when I first bought it because I was kind of not really digging J. Kristoff's writing. I think it's a little dumb sometimes, a little childish. But ultimately, I think it's a great idea, and some of the characters were really fun. I really loved the artwork that was in the first book. And I don't know, I just was feeling curious about where it goes, and so I may give this a try. The next book that I may read, this is another one that's been on my shelf for a hot minute, but that is The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. From what I understand, this is a dystopian type novel, sci-fi type novel, in which we have the ability to travel through time, to travel back in time. And there is the Ministry of Time, and this is a group of people that work to take people that travel back in time and to acclimate them to life in the past, to set them up for success in whatever their endeavors might be. I believe there is a romance part of this. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I was feeling some more sci-fi. The next one is a long overdue book that I've been meaning to pick up for a hot minute, for ages, for years now. And that is Caliban's War, which is book 2 in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. I have heard that this is one of the best books in the series. I really enjoyed these characters. I thought they were a lot of fun in the first book. Funny and a found family feeling, lots of mystery and really fun sci-fi aspects to it. So I am excited to get back into this world. I have the entire series on my shelves, but I think maybe that's why I haven't picked it up, because there's so many damn books. It's a little intimidating. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna get to this one soon. And then I recently heard someone mention this book in a video, and I know that I've had this book on my shelves and just had never read it. And that is the Book of M by Peng Shepherd. And I really don't know. Okay, so this is kind of a horror story in which there's an illness, I think, that goes around in which people lose their shadows, and then they start to lose their memories of like who they are. That's all I really know. But I do believe there is also a love story in this as well, because it focuses on a specific couple. Yes, Ori and his wife, Max. And it is called The Forgetting. And they escaped it in the beginning by hiding in an abandoned hotel deep in the woods outside of Virginia. This new life feels almost normal until their greatest fear happens to them and Max's shadow disappears. So I don't know, I just thought that it sounded pretty intriguing, pretty interesting, kind of out of the norm of what I've been reading lately. And so I decided to add it to my little maybe shelf, or pile, as you have it. Anyway, that's what I've been reading and DNFing. I would love to know what you've been reading and DNFing. So drop me a comment down below and let me know. Let's talk about these books if you've read any of them, if you've had different opinions than me. I would love to hear them. I am always curious. Maybe I should give some of these books a second try. So convince me. Tell me why I should read them. Sorry, my dog just jumped off. I thought she was gonna puke. But she didn't, so we're winning. Sorry it's been so long since I have checked in. I've just been busy doing life. Spring has sprung and the mountains are calling, you know what I'm saying? So I will still be here, still checking in time to time. I'm not going to tie myself down to any schedule, but when I feel like I've read enough books that are worth of talking about, I will check in. So until the next time, guys, bye!